Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we're diving into a report from ALLETE, a company you might not know by name, but they're involved in some essential stuff like energy. This report is like a peek behind the curtain, except instead of illusionists we have accountants. And trust me, sometimes those are equally hard to understand. Before we start, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below if you want to chat about this stuff with other finance nerds. And before we start, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below if you want to chat about this stuff with other finance nerds. Alright, so what's this report actually about? It's an 8K filing, which is basically a company saying, hey, something important happened and we need to tell the SEC and you, the shareholders, about it. In this case, it's about their annual shareholder meeting held in May of 2025 and the results of the votes on several key issues. Let's get to it. First up is the election of directors. Think of directors as the board members. They're like the grown-ups who make the big decisions for the company. The report lists each director nominee and how many votes they got. For Bethany Owen, for example, we see over 36 million votes for, about 1.2 million votes against, and almost 100,000 abstentions, meaning people who didn't really pick a side. What's also interesting is the broker non-votes, which is about 7.2 million. This happens when brokers holding shares for clients don't get instructions on how to vote, and therefore don't vote on certain issues. All the nominees were elected, meaning the shareholders approved the current direction of the company. In the table, there are several names such as Susan Nestergaard, George Goldfarb, James Julian votes for about 1.2 million votes against and almost 100,000 abstentions, meaning people who didn't really pick a side. What's also interesting is the broker non-votes, and if the accompanying the shareholders approved the current direction of the company. In the table, there are several names such as Susan Nestergaard, George Goldfarb, James Julian, Madeline Ludlow. Next, we have an advisory vote on executive compensation. Basically, shareholders get to give their opinion on whether they think the top executives are being paid fairly. It's advisory, so the company doesn't have to listen, but it's a good temperature check. In this case, the shareholders approved the executive pay packages with approximately 36 million votes for, 1.5 million votes against, and 365,156 million votes for, 1.5 million votes against, and 365,156 million votes for, 1.5 million votes against, and 365,156 million votes for, 1.5 million votes against, and 365,100 votes against, and 365,101 against, and 365,101 votes. After that, there was a vote on the ALLETE Executive Long-Term Incentive Compensation Plan. These plans are how companies try to motivate their executives to work hard and think long-term. It's like saying, if the company does well over the next few years, you get a bonus. Shareholders approved this plan with around 36 million votes for, about 1.5 million against, and 31,812 abstentions, and a similar amount of broker non-votes. Now we're getting to something a little more technical. There was a vote to approve an amendment to the company's Articles of Incorporation regarding something called Serial Preferred Stock A. This has to do with a merger agreement. Mergers can get very complicated, especially when they involve different types of stock. The good news is the amendment passed with a pretty high level of approval of 36.5 million votes for the pretty high level of approval of 36.5 million votes for, against the 677 million broker non-votes here too. Finally, there was a vote to ratify, which means approve the selection of PricewaterhouseCoopers or PwC as the company's independent accounting firm for 2025. This is a standard procedure. Companies need an outside auditor to check their books and make sure everything is on the level. Shareholders overwhelmingly approved this with nearly 44 million votes for, less than a million against, and 176,075 abstentions. Very few broker non-votes here, which is interesting. There's also a section about exhibits, but it's not really something we need to look into. Let's focus on what matters. Before we wrap up, there's a big chunk of text called forward-looking statements. Companies include these to cover themselves legally. Basically, they're saying, hey, we're making predictions about the future, but things could change, so don't sue us if we're wrong. It's full of factors that could impact the company, like the economy, weather, laws, competition, and even cyber attacks. Timya, what does all of this mean? Let's analyze. From this report, we can see that shareholders are largely on board with the company's direction. All the proposals passed, some with overwhelming support. The most debated seem to be executive compensation and the long-term incentive plan. However, these got approved regardless. The fact that a lot of brokers didn't vote is a little bit curious. Maybe some of the topics seemed too technical to be worth the effort, or maybe it was just apathy. It's hard to say. It doesn't seem concerning at this moment. The company is heading to be acquired in a merger. The stock prices are reflecting this fact, and it could be a good time to buy because it's been mostly stagnant due to lack of business performance. However, keep in mind that this merger can fail too, and there are also risks listed in the statement that the acquisition can harm the business or cash flow. Overall, ALLETE seems like a stable company, but they operate in a changing market. What happens with climate change, regulations, and technology will have a big impact. Alright, that's our quick breakdown of ALLETE's 8K filing. What do you think about these results? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you found this useful, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more. Also, check out the Discord in the description for more chats like this. Thanks for watching. See you next time.